Well, we're still well and truly in a Champions League qualifying spot hunt here with Jahn Regensburg going into the winter break, as long as we can pick up some results before then as we take on Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig. And also I've had a haircut, so fingers crossed that maybe we're now good at job interviews. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 58 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well, and coming up day two, big games at home in the league before the winter break. First up, we host Bayern Munich, of course, taking them on last couple of years in DFB-Pokal and got beaten because they're Bayern Munich, and of course we were down in this Bundesliga. Let's see this season if we can knock them off before we take on RB Leipzig, that one also in front of our home fans. So for you guys are looking forward to that, as well as a bit of an update on who we've got next in DFB-Pokal, and an update on that Wolfsburg job interview that we did have at the end of last week. Of course, it was a long weekend because I forgot to mention King's birthday. Hopefully most of you guys are in the Commonwealth. I feel like it's the case with most people who play FM, so you knew the reason that there was no video back on Monday. But this does come off the back of yesterday's episode. You can see that last game there we took on Hamburg. That was a 2-1 win there in the third round of the DFB-Pokal. And before then, we picked up a 1-1 draw when we took on Frankfurt. And quite a few job interviews in between those two games. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. First up, had the fourth round draw for the DFB-Pokal. I say fourth round, it's actually the quarterfinals, and we've got quite lucky getting Freiburg at home. Those guys are down in these Bundesliga, so really despite the fact that they are on top and did get past Eintracht Frankfurt after extra time, they might actually be a bit more difficult than they look, seeing as they are in the second tier. But seeing as we are in a fight for a European spot next season, you'd like to think that is a pretty winnable tie for us there. Hopefully can make our way through to the final four of the DFB-Pokal. The other ties there, you'll see Dortmund take on Leipzig, clearly the big one there, alongside Bayern and Cologne. And Hansa Rostock from down in the Free Liga, they take on Schalke. So fingers crossed we can get past Freiburg and might be able to come back then. But hopefully a semi against the winner of that Hansa Schalke game, albeit if we can get past Bayern here first up in today's episode, maybe we won't mind if we take them on, but definitely sick of playing those guys in that competition, so let's hope it stops. But also, there's been a little bit of an update on that Wolfsburg job interview we did have before that third round clash in the DFB-Pokal. We need to make our way over here to the staff tab and to the job centre for this one, because briefly we were the favourite for that Wolfsburg job, but now it's Mark van Bommel who is over, I believe, in the Netherlands, and he is at Utrecht. You can see that he's underbid from Wolfsburg, so I dare say nice and early in today's episode we can rule out that we're going to be making a move to Wolfsburg. Not that we were too convinced about it anyway, apart from the fact they're in Europe and have a ridiculous amount of transfer budget left for midway through the season, something around £35 million. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll be getting that job. So I think for now, during the course of today's episode, there'll be no job interviews. Maybe during the winter break, that's something that might pop up. We might check that job centre before we wrap things up for today's episode, and also see who might be on the brink of getting sacked, seeing as we're about to take a month or so off here in the Bundesliga. So I think it's safe to say we're still going to be here at Jahn Regensburg come the end of today's episode. Whether or not, though, we're still inside of a European qualifying spot, that is a little bit less certain, because, of course, we do take on two pretty good teams. First up, Bayern Munich, who sit in second. They've definitely surged their way up the table, have finally started to pick up some form there, have Pep Guardiola's men. Let's see how we get on 5 straight wins, including a couple there in the Champions League and the DFB-Pokal. And they have beaten us the last couple of seasons that we've taken them on down in these Bundesliga. But this season, our form is definitely a lot better, I'd say, even compared to our time down in the second tier. And we've got a much stronger squad. So we'll see here how we get on against Super Bayern, who, if they win this game, could go to the top of the table before the winter break. And no one wants that. Fingers crossed that we can keep Dortmund there on top of the league. So hopefully can find a way here to finally take some points off Bayern Munich, albeit we do have a bit of an injury concern in central attacking midfield. You'll see there too on the right-hand side some recent injuries there to Walden, Toff, Muller and Kamara. Thankfully, they're all okay, albeit Toff and Kamara are a little bit doubtful fitness-wise. In particular, Kamara only recommended for 45 minutes, which does make what's over there on the left-hand side a bit more concerning, because Aaron Ramsey out for one more day with a tight hamstring. But our medical team, if we go to the inbox, they say he should be okay. So seeing this is a game against Bayern, I don't want to call up Dan Romero for a game this big. We'll start Aaron Ramsey Fingers crossed he can get through the first half, and then maybe we might be able to bring on Kamara for that second half. So a little bit of an interesting injury situation there in central attacking midfield for this Bayern Munich game. But apart from that, we are at full strength. So let's hope here we can pick up a good result, or at least try to, because Bayern obviously are supposed to be the best team here in the Bundesliga, but they have not been great, especially early stages of the season. But now that we're about to take them on, they do look to be finding their form. Let's see if we can bring that to an end. But you can see there, their expected lineup does look a little bit stronger than what they've been putting out the last couple of seasons when they took us on. And the DFB-Pokal did feel like they rotated quite a bit for those games and still got past us. Maybe now that we're challenging for Europe here in the Bundesliga, they might be about to put out quite a strong team. Maybe the likes of Harry Kane might finally play against us. And indeed, that is the case. So, oh boy, this could be a very interesting time for us coming up here. We might be about to maybe hit our first rough patch of the season, because off the back of that, we've got RB Leipzig. They do sit just outside of a European qualifying spot, quite similar to teams like Gladbach and also Bayer Leverkusen, who have been a bit fierce so far this season. But going into the winter break, there might be a good chance for them off the back of us getting beaten probably by Bayern here to actually get on top of us and pick up some more points. So this could be a bit of a big episode today. We might drop out of those European qualifying spots before the winter break. And also, you would have noticed a lot of these big teams first half of the season, it feels like we've been taking them on at the Jahn Regensburg. So that means the second half of the season, we could be in a little bit of trouble when we have these games coming up away from home. That might make things a bit more difficult if we want to cling on to a European qualifying spot for next season. Obviously, that wasn't the goal. We were just trying to stay up here in the Bundesliga with this Jahn Regensburg team. But we are up there. It would be quite nice to stay there while we do have a chance here, even though it's only our first season in the Bundesliga. First attack here, Aaron Ramsey gets a nice chance there from that throw-in, but maybe that slight injury he's carrying does mean he can't quite put that one on target. So unfortunately, we get a nice chance there early, and stats-wise actually are on the front foot. Now, Ruslan on a yellow card, that's definitely not ideal. To be fair, he's been picking up quite a few of those lately in the games we've been playing, but it does mean that maybe Pavicic might have to come on for him here at halftime. Not ideal, because he can be a real weapon from set pieces. But now, with about 5 minutes left here in the first half, it's Bayern who are on the attack. Leroy Sané makes his way there into the box. Nice square there for Musiala. Not much pressure put on there by our defenders, but thankfully it was a pretty average shot, and Lukic could make a save. And off the back of that, we just do enough there to deal with the danger from that corner and clear that ball away. So thankfully, we keep this at 0-0. That might be all she wrote before halftime. In fact, no, there's a throw-in for us here just inside of our own half. Fingers crossed we don't do what we did last week when we took on the likes of Dortmund and get ourselves into trouble trying to make our way out from back. But so far, this is going quite well. Lewis Walden squares that one for Rene Miller, who puts it away for his 14th of the season. He's only 3 off Leighton Stewart from last year, and we're not even halfway into the season. He's definitely going to break that goal scoring record here this season at Jahn Regensburg, provided that no one pinches him during the course of the winter break, which hopefully they won't, because 900k for him is looking like an absolute bargain with his goal scoring output so far here this season. Lewis Walden sets it up nicely as well. Those two clearly our best attackers here in this Jahn Regensburg team, and they link up to make it 1-0 at halftime. We are beating Bayern Munich. So now we've made our way into the sheds. We'll take off Ruslan for Pavicic on that yellow card, and also Kamara for Ramsey with that minute restriction that he was on. Just make sure that Ramsey should be available for RB Leipzig in a week's time. Thankfully, these guys as well, not too tight only a few days off the back of that game we did play against Hamburg in the DFB-Pokal. So thankfully, the fact that we had a big gap off the back of the Bundesliga game against those guys does mean that we're able to start a pretty strong team here for this big clash against Bayern. A decent chance there for them early in the second half, but thankfully that free kick does go over the post and we hold on to our 1-0 lead. Maybe this is our chance here to finally pick up a win at the third time of asking over Bayern Munich. And of course, as I said earlier, that would help out Dortmund and get us back inside of a top 4 spot in Champions League qualifying spot for next season, which would be quite big after only one season here in the Bundesliga. But now we make our way towards the last 15 minutes of this game. A couple of players out there drop down to red hearts. So Levente Toff can come on for Walden. A great game, set up that only goal that we did score, but Toff can come on there at right wing while he's naked, and Ostijic or Jimenez also on that red heart. One more sub that we can make, and a couple of options now. I think the safe one might be to take off our left back Uwe Dorn on a red heart for Lino Sousa. Just try and shore up our fitness there and our defence. We're about to make our way to the final 10 minutes, albeit Bayern now are going to try and make their way out from the back. Let's see what they do here so far. Doing a good job, as you expect, for the quality of player that they do have on their books. But Leroy Sané a bit looser on the ball than Sousa. Gets it back for us, but Munrik again a bit iffy there on the ball. There's a clear foul, but they then get a chance and they hit the woodwork. Sané still down. Not too sure how we've got away with that. I guess advantage was played. And we are now on the attack. A good tackle there, but we actually keep hold of the ball. Ostiach plays at midfield there. Sousa to Brewing, where those guys knock it about. And the highlight does eventually come to an end. Off the back of that, we'll start time wasting here in this one just a little bit as we make our way into the final 10 minutes. But quite fortunately that Bayern did not equalise, especially with that pretty cynical foul that we did commit on Leroy Sané. But I suppose the advantage got played and they hit the woodwork, but a bit lucky. Yeah, definitely could have got us there in trouble if they did blow that one up. But Bayern here keep the ball from the highlight that has just started off the back of that time wasting that we did get stuck into. Now they eventually play a ball over the top there for Cody Gakpo, who puts it in there and squares it for Benjamin Sesko, who's not at Leipzig in this save. He's at Bayern Munich and he equalises. So unfortunately, that does mean time for us here to undo all that time wasting stuff we only put in about a minute ago. To be fair, they probably deserved it off the back of that chance they had before. They probably should have a free kick there with that foul that we did commit, but in the end, Bayern, they do grab an equaliser, which I think, based on the last couple of minutes, they probably deserve. Cody Gakpo there squares it nicely for Sesko, who nutmegs Lukic. So that's a bit unfortunate. It is 1-1, but be fair, that would still be a pretty good result here against Bayern Munich, albeit now there's a free kick. It is in our favour, but it feels like Bayern here might be coming at us late in this game, but we are making our way into the opposition half, and Kamara gets cut down there by Kim Min-jae. It's a red card, so all of a sudden this changes the dynamics of this game quite a bit. We might be able to push here for a winner. We won't go attacking because it's Bayern Munich, albeit if we make our way deeper into injury time, maybe we do. But a set piece now, and Pavicic gets his head on the end of that one put in there. I'm not too sure who took that corner. It's usually Sousa, but he puts it away, coming on for Ruslan, and we take a 2-1 lead. Let's now start to time waste big time and chuck our fullbacks onto support. Maybe that red card is going to give us all 3 points from this game. So big mistake there from the South Korean centre-back, and we take a 2-1 lead. It's Pavicic in that Ruslan role. It's actually Ostiach there who put that one into the mixer. It's a wonderful header, though, into that top left corner. Nothing that Costa can do about that. We go through the rest of injury time, only 3 minutes. Let's see how long it is off the back of that red card. It's not too much longer. We pick up a huge win. The first time in the save so far. We beat Bayern Munich, who, of course, previous champions of Europe. So that is a massive result. Maybe we're not that bad here this season at Jahn Regensburg. If there were any doubts before this game, now we're starting to show it. Obviously, the red card there makes a big difference, but still, it's a game that otherwise we might have got something out of with a point anyway. But that red card, a big difference maker, a late chance there from set piece, and Pavicic coming on there for Ruslan can head that one home. As I said, I think in the last episode that we did, or maybe the one before that, they're both pretty good from set pieces, and you saw it there. So that is a brilliant result. We'll pump up the tyres here on our guys off the back of those big 3 points, which does see us jump up back inside of that top 4 in Dortmund. They should be very happy with us off the back of that result of 2-1 win over Bayern Munich. Next up, we'll come back and take on Leipzig, who are down in 7th. So a huge win for us first up there in today's episode. Took a couple of injury time goals there in both halves, but Pavicic off the back of that red card gives us a 2-1 win. So big result there the first time that we've bet Bayern Munich. Now, let's hope we can back it up here as we take on Leipzig. We have moved up to 4th on the table and do have games in hand on every other team in the league somehow. So fingers crossed here can make the most of that as we take on Leipzig. To be fair, though, quite a few other teams are also in action on this match day. So no matter what we do, we will still have that game in hand, but there are teams behind us, so let's hope here we can pick up a result and stay inside of a Champions League qualifying spot as we take on Leipzig, who are on the verge of making their way into one of those European qualifying spots. So far this season, though, it's fair to say they've been a little bit disappointing. Only 6 wins, 4 draws, 4 losses from their 14 games so far for the team, expected to finish around 2nd or 3rd. Of course, we checked back when we took on Dortmund. Those two seem to be pretty interchangeable as the second pick in behind Bayern for this season. in the Bundesliga. Big club, obviously we know that saying as we took them over in the RB Kloppbot save that we did not too long ago. Let's see this time if we can knock them off. They did lose to Bayern 4 games ago and just lost to Barcelona in the Champions League. In between that though, some pretty good results in the DFB-Pokal and also in the Bundesliga against our rivals there in Wolfsburg, who are just behind us. Let's hope they don't get a chance here to overtake us on this match day, but thankfully there's no injury concerns going into the second game of today's episode. Aaron Ramsey is fine off the back of the 45 minutes that we gave him there in that game against Bayern before taking him off for Adama Kamara, so it does mean we can go with the exact same team that picked up their 2-1 win over Bayern Munich, so fingers crossed here can pick up a pretty similar result against a team who are not going as well, albeit this is a team our analysts did suggest we go for 4-4-2 against. We don't really have a 4-4-2, I think, that works yet. So going to stick here with the 4-2-3-1 that got the job done over Bayern, because while we changed something that worked against clearly the best team in Germany, who have Pep in charge and Harry Kane up front, who honestly, I can't remember seeing in that game. He went missing there somewhere in Regensburg during the course of those 90 minutes, must have ended up there in the pocket of someone like Ruslan or maybe Hubner Singh, as he actually lasted the full 90 minutes. But there are RB Leipzig going with a 4-4-2 diamond. It's an interesting formation, hopefully can make the most like we usually do here of our wings and overlaps down those sides. And let's hope that might be enough for us here to back up that Bayern win. 3 more points here, and all of a sudden we're looking like very serious contenders to hold on to that European qualifying spot even in the back half of the season when we take on some of these teams away from home. Early corner there though to RB Leipzig, thankfully just do enough to clear the danger at the far post, but Enriquez is back on the ball, floats that far post. Thankfully Ruslan can hit it clear, but again Leipzig do get this ball back. So early stages here, it is Leipzig who are on the front foot. What can the energy drink team here do at the Jahn Regensburg? They get a chance there through a header, but thankfully that one goes quite safely over the woodwork. So early stages here, it is Leipzig on the front foot now. Another corner as we hit the 10-minute mark. Thankfully this time headed away, and Lewis Walden gets us here going on the front foot, makes his way there just inside the byline, floats that one far post, but unfortunately Van der Voort, not too sure if he's as decent as he was back in the Leipzig save in this one, because he was pretty average when we took over there in that Kloppbot save. Not the Leipzig save, he pumps that one deep, unfortunately can't control it, and Leipzig here are back on the ball. On Rex there, nice square there for their striker, of course not Cisco, so they might be a little bit weak up front compared to what they usually are, but decent save there from Lukic. But again, they're on the attack here, a decent chance there. That might have been Gertruda who got that header off, but again, they can't quite hit the target. But first 15 minutes of this game, it's been all Leipzig, and unfortunately, we had a throw in there. We can't make the most of it, and somehow they still keep that ball there. Despite that, we were trying to do a decent chance there, just on the edge of the box, but thankfully, it goes just wide to Leipzig. They are all over us so far in this game. We've done nothing attacking-wise. That's a bit concerning off the back of that good result we did pick up against Bayern Munich so far. Looking pretty poor in this game again. Ruslan does pick up a yellow card. So again, might have to make that sub there at halftime. To be fair, Pavicic was quite good, of course, scoring the winner in that previous game that we did play. But thankfully this time, holding the ball quite well here up to Burguia. Down our left-hand side, plays it back there to Dawn. And now going all the way back, though, to our centre-backs. So far, not too threatening when we're on the ball. And for some reason, to Burguia there with a back pass to Dawn, it's not on the money. They get the ball back here to Leipzig and are back on the attack. Henri squares that one, and it's Hinson who puts it away. And to be fair, halfway through the first half, that goal's been coming for pretty much the entirety of it. We go 1-0 down at home to Leipzig still. We have not lost the game at home here this season in both the DFB-Pokal or, of course, in the Bundesliga. This might be it, because so far we are looking all at sea here, just nothing going attacking-wise here in this game. Let's hope we can finally find some form off the back of that goal that we have just conceded. But so far, it's been a very poor display. We've done absolutely nothing. Maybe this is a time for us here to change tactics during the second half of this game if some subs don't make a difference. They look like there briefly we might be on the attack, but Leipzig can clear, and somehow they get that ball back there rather easily. Not too sure what our defence is doing, if anything at all, as they play that one there, and they get a shot off from just outside the box, but thankfully it's not quite on target so far. It's probably our saving grace, getting a few chances here to extend their lead. Thankfully they haven't taken them. They've been all over us here in this first half. As now Lopez and Walden also picked up yellow cards, but that is a woeful first half. We've done nothing, and we're 1-0 down. So we'll make some changes here in midfield. LaRosa is that ball winner, and also let's bring on their Pavicic for Ruslan. Also, we might take off Walden as well on that yellow card, or the Vente Toffs. Let's see what those three can do for the players who were sitting on yellow cards. A few others out there who are looking a little bit average rating rights, in particular Tabukia on a 6.4 at left wing, but we still continue to not do anything so far in this game. So this one has been very, very poor as we make our way forward to the hour mark. Now, Tabukia on a 6.4. Let's bring American on for him. We don't really have an option up front, seeing as we brought on Toff for Walden. So what we might do here to try and change things is switch to the 4-3-3 and just see if maybe that's a way for us in this game to get something going. But to be fair, so far, we've been pretty good attacking-wise with our 4-2-3-1. But Leipzig, for some reason, it isn't working against. Now, maybe a chance for us here to make our final sub, because Manrik has been pretty fair the last little while and drops down to a red hat. Toby Collier, who might be on his way out of the club by the time we come back for the next episode off the back of the winter break. There's a few players here who are complaining about their playing time. Maybe that's actually a reason that we've just hit a wall here in this game, not doing anything, and about to make our way to the final 10 minutes. Maybe we switch back here to the 4-2-3-1 and just see if that might get us going again. We'll go a bit wider as well with our attacking whip and see if just some sort of change here might make a difference. We'll distribute quickly as well. Let's just try and change something to try and get something out of this game, because so far, a very, very poor performance. We've done nothing, and Leipzig have just been allowed there to sit on their 1-0 lead, albeit if we're not going to attack, not too sure we can say they've been sitting on it. We'll go attacking and up the tempo here, albeit actually this might be a chance for us here as I chuck our wing backs onto attack to maybe instead switch the 4-4-2, which is mislabeled, that we haven't tried yet in a competitive game, because honestly, the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1 are not doing anything, just debating here what role Ramsey might be better suited in. Doesn't look like either. Let's go higher tempo late on in this game with a 4-4-2. It's a bit of a formation I pinched off Steve Corica and Auckland FC in real life, which now seems a bit dumb because they got knocked out in the semi-finals in the A-League, but that was absolute rubbish off the back of a win against Bayern Munich. We did nothing. To be fair, quite lucky, we only conceded one goal there in that first half, but that was a very poor performance. We get beaten 1-0 there by RB Leipzig. That does mean that maybe we're going to slip outside one of those Champions League qualifying spots, albeit still should have that game in hand whenever that does get played here for us in the Bundesliga. We're just waiting here for the processing to take place. And also, let's make our way through this post-match interview where I think we can get a bit brutal here on our guys off the back of that performance, because it wasn't really much of one, it's fair to say, with absolutely zero shots. That's pretty poor, and unfortunately, we do drop outside of that top four as we did nothing and got beaten 1-0 by RB Leipzig. So a little bit confused as to where that performance came from there. Second up in today's episode, we did nothing attacking-wise and got beaten deservedly so 1-0 by RB Leipzig. Lukic there reveals my fury. Obviously, we did nothing. To be fair, not too sure the goalkeeper should be copping that fury now that I think about it. But yeah, our attackers in that game having a day off a bit early before the winter break. As I mentioned, maybe that's got something to do with the dynamics here. They have gone down ever so slightly. A few players do want to leave. Matthew Stollery, Jay Sadie, Greenwood, Toby Collier, and Dill American all want to be transfer listed. So that's what we've done going in to the winter break, off the back of me still having to play Schalke before then. But those four might be on their way out the club. So maybe going to be some transfers when we come back for the next episode. And that might be a reason that we were so poor in that game, even though those guys we tried to exclude from our squad. Maybe need to do that more so for that game against Schalke before we do enter that winter break and can get rid of them, because really that's the only thing I can think of that might have put our form in the mud there for that game and resulted in such a poor performance, which unfortunately does see us drop down to 5th, but still with that game in hand compared to the teams around us, especially once the other teams who play on this match day do get those games out of the way. So still sitting in a pretty good spot here with Jahn Regensburg. We pick up our first win over Bayern in the save, just not too sure where that Leipzig performance came from. No shots at all, and we get beaten 1-0. And also, in fact, before we wrap things up for today's episode, we will just check in quickly on the job centre, because obviously we've got a fair few offers during the course of this season. I think now we've had 6 job interviews. We've got none of them which is brilliant from me, as I said, fingers crossed the haircut might actually mean we start to succeed in those. Maybe they did not like long hair, but here are all the jobs that are currently available to be fair. Nothing there that's too interesting. Strasbourg, they're 11th in League A. We're doing better here at Jahn Regensburg. I don't think Strasbourg is a bigger club than us by that much. We've got Schalke and Nuremberg in the Bundesliga, not joining those two rubbish teams based on their season so far. And going down further, Familiar Cow potentially, but they're not too hot here in the save like they can be in some other saves in Football Manager. There's nothing really that's too interesting. Real Oviedo would be fun if we were still down in the second tier. Jorginho Wijnaldum, the favourite for that job there over in Liga. And Utrecht, of course, in the Eredivisie, seeing as their manager got that Wolfsburg job. But honestly, there's nothing too interesting there yet. But job security-wise, what jobs might be insecure that could pop up during the course of that winter break? We'll go down here a bit further and see what is very insecure. A couple of jobs there lower down in England. But Manchester United could certainly make things interesting if that job does become available during the winter break. Not too sure if we can get that job based on how we're interviewing so far here in the save at lower reputation clubs, but still, it might create a little bit of a managerial merry-go-round that we could make the most of, so that could be interesting. So there might be a bit going on there before we come back for the next episode off the back of the winter break. Also, Eintracht Frankfurt and Gladbach. I think it's fair to say those two clubs might be steps up here from Jahn Regensburg, and a couple there as well in the A, and even a team like AZ over in the Eredivisie could be something interesting. So a few jobs there that could pop up during the winter break in Europe that we might need to consider if they came and asked us for a job interview. And fingers crossed now we might do well at one off the back of the haircut or something. I'm not too sure why we've been so bad at interviews in the save, apart from the fact of being quite happy at Jahn Regensburg, so maybe not taking them as seriously as I should have been. But that will do it for today's episode. A good result against Bayern, then a horrible one against Leipzig. But if you enjoyed it, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Now, when we come back for tomorrow's episode, there'll probably be a transfer recap, and obviously, depending on what pops up there during the winter break in my inbox, that's probably going to influence what we do come back for. Bochum at home, I'd like to think is quite winnable, so we might skip that game. But Gladbach away, we were going to come back for that one in the last episode until that third round of the DFB-Pokal came up. So I think we'll come back there for Gladbach, and Cologne as well did beat us on the first day of the season. So maybe we come back for those two games in the next episode. But obviously, it'll be somewhat dependent on if a team wants us there during the course of that winter break. So a potentially interesting episode coming up tomorrow. There'll at least be one game. There could be all sorts of other stuff though going on, transfers, maybe some job interviews that we do make our way through. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.